Hi, this is a video tutorial to show you how to do the portfolio builder exercise on the color chapter. You're going to use the same techniques and the same CSS style sheet that you used in the typography exercise from the Against the Clock textbook. First, I want to show you what is in my chapter folder. So in my root folder, I have the files that I downloaded from Against the Clock, the Color Chapter 3 text, the Color Chapter 3 PDF file, my Images folder, the CSS style sheet from the typography exercise, and then I have an extra HTML file here, but you would have your typography HTML page and your typography text too already in that same root folder. So I'm just using the same root folder that I used for the typography exercise. So I selected that root folder, and now I am going to open up my color text. So I have the color text file open, and I'm just going to edit, select all, and then edit copy. Then I'm going to go to File New and create a new HTML file. And remember, this title that I put in is just going to be the title that's going to be on the tab of my browser. So I can give it a title if I want, but I'm still going to have to save it as another name. So I'm just going to call it Color Theory and create that as an HTML document. I'm going to switch to Design View, and then I'm going to paste the text that I copied, going to edit, paste, and then I'm going to save it. So I'm going to save this and call it color.html. And I already got a color file there, so I'm just going to call it color2, but you can just name yours color.html and save it in your root folder. And then I'm scrolling up here. The text does not have a title to it, so I have to type a title in. What I'm going to do is open up my PDF file by double clicking on it, and it will open it up. I've got it set up on my computer to open it in Acrobat, and I can see here with Acrobat open that this title of this chapter is Color Theory. So I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver and type that in, Color Theory. And you can call it Color Theory Chapter 3 if you want, or just Color Theory. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to scroll all the way down and look for the word glossary at the end of the text here. And I'm just going to select everything after the word glossary and delete it because I don't need to format the glossary. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the typography exercise, is replace all these breaks with the paragraph tags. So I'm going to go to the Find menu at the top of my screen and go to Find and Replace in Files, and then type in the tag for the line break, and then search in the current document, and then type in the closing tag for the paragraph, and then the opening paragraph for the paragraph, because I want to replace all of the breaks with the paragraph tags, and then click on Replace All. Now all those line breaks are replaced with the paragraph tags, and I can see that now I have paragraphs showing up correctly in Design View because I'm in Split View, so I can see my code and my visual content display, my visual editor here. Next, I want to select my heading now. So the Color Theory is the main heading, so I'm using my Properties panel and I'm going to select Heading 1. And then I can use my PDF file to see what all my other headings are. So the next subheading will be additive color, so that would be heading 2. So I'm going to select additive color and then format that to heading 2. And I'm going to do the same thing for subtractive color, understanding complementary color. And I can always go back to my PDF file to check that. So subtractive color should be in that same heading style. Understanding complementary color, human color perception. I'm just going to scroll here to see all the way through communicating color. So I'm going to select the next subheadings and format it to heading 2. And then I'm going to stop at communicating color. Let me see where, oh, there it is. And for some reason, the break here did not get replaced with the paragraph tag. Undo that. So I'm going to hit a return. I'm just going to do another find and replace in files and hit replace all again. And hopefully that should fix that line break problem. So now all the line break codes have been replaced with the paragraph codes. All right, then I can go back and format those color subheadings with heading 3. I'm going to go back to my PDF file to check. So there's a table that I'm going to create and format. I'm going to go back to that later. So I've got understanding gamut, and then the conclusion goes back to heading 2. So I'm going to check my file and set understanding gamut to heading 3, and then the conclusion heading 2. I want to go and look for my table because now I want to format and create the table like I did in the typography exercise. So if I look on my PDF file and go up to the table for the color model, I want to see how many rows and columns I need to create. So I have 2 columns and 6 rows. So I'm going to go back to my Dreamweaver file and go right before the RGB used for designing text, and after CMY equivalent, I'm going to hit a paragraph return, and I'm going to insert my table here. So I want to go to Insert at the top menu, Table, and now I'm going to select 6 rows and 2 columns, and I'm not going to have a header row. You can if you want. I'm just going to select None, and then you can give it a caption for accessibility and a summary. So I can put color models for my summary, and you could even give it a caption if you wanted to call it color models in your caption. Click OK, and then I can copy and paste my content into my table. So I'm just going to copy my RGB text into that first row, and then copy the text next to it, the definition, into the next column, and then web safe for the next row, and the definition for the next column. Then CMYK and the CMYK definition, hexachrome, the hexachrome definition, special libraries, and lab. Once I've copied and pasted all the text into my table, I'm going to select this text and delete it because I don't need it anymore because now it's in my table. There's another thing that I need is that I did on the typography exercise. If you remember, that was formatting the block quote. So I want to look at my PDF document to see if there is a block quote that I can use for the header. And you could even use the first paragraph if you wanted to set that in block quote. But what I'm going to do is scroll down here to page 5 in my PDF document and select this as the block quote. So this quote underneath the apples, starting with obviously, I'm going to use that as my block quote. So I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver and find that in my Dreamweaver file. So I'm going to scroll to, was right above the human color perception section. So that's right here. So I'm going to select that paragraph and use my properties panel and select the block quote button. And now that paragraph is set to the block quote, and I can look in my code and see that now it's got the block quote tags wrapping around it. So that's going to affect what my header looks like, so you want to make sure that you add that block quote, so that's going to actually go into your header. Another thing that I'm missing is I don't have a navigation menu. So I want to open up my typography file and use the navigation menu. That's the wrong one. It's actually my test file here. So I'm going to open up my navigation menu, and then I'm just going to copy and paste the text that I used for my navigation menu in the typography page. So I'm going to select that and edit, copy, then go to my color page, and I'm going to paste it into the code this time because I want it to be after the last paragraph and I want it to be before the closing body tag. So I'm going to go to edit, paste, and paste that unordered list, that navigation here, and you can see in design view that it's after my concluding paragraph here. So I want my navigation to be at the very bottom of the page, but still within the body tags. The other thing that I need is the footer. So in the typography web page, I'm also going to copy the footer text, and I'm just going to copy it on the design view, edit, copy, and then go to my color HTML page, and I'm going to paste it in my visual editor after. I'm going to hit a couple of returns and hit paste, and paste it right after my navigation menu. Now I can add my section tags by using the insert panel, just like I did in the typography assignment. So I'm using the HTML insert panel, and then I'm going to go to the top, and I'm just going to select color theory and wrap my header around the color theory header. I'm going to wrap it around the selection and click OK. Then the rest of my text, I'm going to scroll all the way down until I get to the navigation. So at the concluding paragraph, and then select section in my insert panel, and then wrap that around the selection. So you can see in code view now I have header tags, I have a section tag. I'm going to scroll down in design view, and then I want to wrap around the entire unordered list, and I'm just going to select it in the code view to make sure I get the closing tag for that unordered list as well. And now I'm going to select the navigation in the insert panel and wrap that around the selection. So now I've added the navigation tags around that unordered list. Then I want to select the footer text and select the footer tag in the insert panel, wrap that around the selection, and now that's been added to my code. So let's just review again. I've got the header section around color theory. I have the section tag around my main content through conclusion. I have the navigation section around the tags around the navigation unordered list, and then I have the footer tags wrapping around my footer text. Now I'm ready to add my CSS style sheet. In the typography tutorial, we also went through and replaced all those symbols, the N dashes and the M dashes. You don't have to do that. If you want to go through and do that, you can, but I'm not so concerned about that at this point. I just want to make sure that you format the main elements correctly. So I'm going to skip that right now and go to CSS Designer. Click on the plus sign to add a CSS source. I want to attach an existing CSS style sheet. Click on Browse. Click on my root folder and select that styles.css style sheet in your root folder. Click Open, link, OK. And now you should see the same thing that happened with your typography text is you can't read the text over that red background because we have to add that excerpt section ID. So I'm going to select the section in my code view, and I want to actually go through and highlight the entire section down to the conclusion paragraph, down where the closing section tag is. Then use your properties panel, and then if you don't see the section excerpt selector in the properties panel, you can do it directly in live view. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to switch from Design to Live View, then click on Section. Right next to Section, you'll see that plus sign, and you can add a class or ID selector. So click on the plus sign and then type in, this is an ID selector, so type in the hashtag symbol and excerpt, and then hit return. And that's going to add the excerpt ID selector to your entire section. And then one step I forgot is I forgot to move the block quote into my header. So I'm going to copy the block quote with the block quote tags and the paragraph inside that block quote tag, and I'm going to actually edit and cut it, and then I'm going to paste it into my header. So right after the H1 tags for color theory, I'm doing this in code view here, I'm going to paste that block quote so that's inside my header. Once you do that, that block quote will move into the header area. And then you can see your navigation menu is showing up in Live View correctly. I'm going to go ahead and save this file and close this tab group at the bottom. I can also view it in my browser to see how it would look in the browser. And then I can scroll down in the browser view to see how everything is formatted. And that concludes the Portfolio Builder project for the color assignment.